Because my last period, I realized I went over like I literally did shapes, which probably wasn't the best way to like guide you, just literally showing you. And so I'm not going to post that recording for you guys though. We're going to record this and I'm going to walk through doing it with just like a non-shape class, just something completely different. So let's say, I think a common one is like in a game, you could have class object, and then object might have like a virtual toString function. Just like every object, you could call toString on it and it creates some sort of string representation for it. So you could pass it around. Sure. It's void and equals 0. So this is a pure virtual function. It's got the virtual keyword. It's set equal to 0, and there's no definition for it here. So that's what a pure virtual is. We talked about that. So let's say we have like class hero, and then this one publicly inherits object. There we go. So hero is an object. That's just in general. Let's create some sort of class sword object. So it is an object and it has a sword. There we go. So here I'm just going to create the void toString, because I want sword to be something that I could have an object of. And so since it inherits object, I have to define the toString function. If I don't, it's still an abstract class, abstract base class, and I can't actually create an instance of it. Like
I have
right
a question.
What's up, Eric?
When you did like sword is an object, you didn't write public, private, whatever. Did it default to something?
No, sorry, I meant to be public. Yeah, it was giving an error for that before, I think. Yeah, let me go look. Okay. Maybe it defaults to public. Maybe. I've never seen that before. Also, my internet connection's unstable, so that's super fun. But obviously, I don't know what that does. I'm gonna give that the good old undefined behavior classification because I don't know what it does. But if you want to mess with that, sure. But yeah, public. Sorry about that. Public object. And then here, when I try to create a sword, it said sword is not. You can't see that. Maybe you can see that. But it says sword is not allowed because there's a pure virtual function toString that has not been undefined. So I'm going to go here, void toString. And then probably correct implementation for this probably would return sword, but I'm just going to have it cout sword for sure. There we go. So now I could theoretically have a sword by itself, and that's what I want. So in doing that, this is now it's not an abstract-based class. It's derived. It's fully defined. I can have objects of it. So that's good. So I'm going to have this hero is an object. It has a sword. Let's define some heroes. So first, we have to define. Here, actually, let's do character. Let's do character. So, and then character. Let's not have a sword yet. I know I'm jumping around. Very sorry, but here we go. So character. We want this to be abstract as well, but now it has member variables. Sure, we're not doing member variables in the lab, but I'm just going to throw in some member variables int string. Oh, character gone. String. I don't know how that didn't. Sure, string name. What function can we give a character? What? Oh, he's back. Any function to give a character. If no one can think of one, I'm going to make a fake one. Virch. Speed? Sure. Speed. Perfect. I don't know. 3 E's because I accidentally typed that. Speed. Sure. Virch, and it returns. What does it return? Give me something. No, give me a data type. Int.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the only thing that I wanted to make this virtual carrot. What are you doing? We got 2 carrots. Well, you're muted, so we can't hear you if you're trying to talk to us. But
Oh, the Wi-Fi cut out, so
might
I'm
be-
switching to my phone,
or maybe it's just UF being garbage.
probably.
Okay, so virtual speed here, and let's create just another function that's like void print rival print name short, perfect, print name, and then here it's cout. Okay, so this is still a virtual, this is still an abstract base class, even though we've defined print name here. This is defined. It's still got this virtual function and it inherits object, and we haven't defined the toString function yet. So even though this is a character with a defined thing, you still could not go to here. And I see your question. I do. You can keep your hand raised if you want to, but I see it and just showing this. Yeah. So their abstract class type character is not allowed because there's the function speed that is pure virtual, and the function toString has not been written. So that's an error. What's your question?
Could you go back to the shapes?
Yeah, sure.
So you said that you
Okay, but so I did define it in sword, right? So the question was, you said you didn't define toString, but you defined it in sword right there. So yes, I did define it in sword, but sword inherits objects. So, and I wanted sword to be a class that I could create an object of. That sounds bad. So I wanted to be able to create a variable that has the sword type. And so to do that, I defined all the virtual functions that it inherits, which it inherits objects, so it inherits this virtual function.
So sword isn't.
Sword is not an A, and I think is it ABC? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and sword is not an ABC. It's not an abstract base class anymore.
But character still is because
It has not defined the toString function, and it has not defined the speed function that we need.
But would you be able to define the toString function instead of a virtual and speed?
Yes.
Okay.
So the question was, if I define toString here, would it still be virtual speed in an abstract base class? The answer is yes.
Okay.
But I'm going to leave it like that just because in the lab, you have something like this. That's why I wanted another virtual function.
Yeah.
But right here, if we did void toString and then cout character in quotes, something like that. But I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so yes, even if that was defined, this would still be illegal because of the speed function that we've made. So getting rid of that. Now I'm gonna make a class hero, sure. And a hero is a character, so public character, and it has a sword, private sword. So that's my creation right there. And this I want to be I do not want it to be an abstract base class. So I'm going to define all the virtual functions it has. So if I go here, if you kind of want to see, we can do hero, hover over it, and it says it still has the speed pure virtual and the toStrings that it has to define. So here I'm going to do toString, void toString, sorry, void toString, cout hero. And I'm also going to call this print. Print. That's illegal because accessible. Oh, good talk on accessibility. So right here, I did this print name. That's because right here, print name is private. And so private cannot be accessed by things that are inherited. You could do protected. Is that protected? Yeah, there we go. So protected would now make this legal, or you could do public, whichever one. I'm gonna do public. So there we go. 0. There. Okay. Is Carrick, where are you go? Are you going inside? What is happening right now?
I'm just walking. I'm just walking around.
Okay, that's totally fine. Okay, so the printing 2-string right there, awesome. And then int speed 3 E's. Return thing.length. I am gonna mute them. Okay, so name dot length. Name is private. Oh, okay. And then length. There we go. Awesome. Clean. And now here, this should be valid. Oh, I need to do hero. Hero. That makes sense. Question.
Yeah, I have a question. So you did that in the H though, so what would you put in the C?
Oh, great. If you wanted to write this in the CPP, there. Here, actually, I'll just copy. So I'm going to copy and paste this to this CPP. That, there, here, hero. Hero.
So you, okay, wait,
What's up? Another question? Yes.
sorry. Okay, so you put like the name of the class and then like and then like the dot, so the colon.
Scope resolution operator.
The scope resolution operator and then the function that you define in the header.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. That clarified so much for me. Thank you.
I had another student in my previous class who fucked up that too, and it was she did like this. Actually, no, what she had was this. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, it's just like that.
And her CPP file,
Yeah,
and H looks like what?
like this. H just has the functions right there. CP has. Yes. Okay, does that make sense? Any other questions about that, Victoria? I'll happily answer whatever inheritance questions you got.
Honestly, like you're answering them as you go.
Perfect. Well, at this point, we're mostly done because I think this covers everything. So this base triangular pyramid is honestly the hardest one because it is a 3D shape and it has a triangle. Shape 3D has a circle, so I guess cylinder has a circle. So yeah, never mind. Probably the easiest one. I lied. Trying, but what's up?
Can I ask you based off of this lab?
Yeah.
Conceptually.
Conceptually, sure. What's up?
Okay, so it says the base class is a private triangle, but when we're doing it, like, isn't it public? So are we making 2 triangle classes?
Okay, so the question was when we're doing this, it says the triangular pyramid privately has a triangle, but triangle's public, so you have to make 2 triangle classes. That was your question?
Yeah.
Where is like triangle? So if we had like a class triangle, and you kind of simulate it with like having it so class. But like, okay, so a sword is kind of like our triangle. So what, like our sword right here is kind of like triangle, where it inherits 2D. I guess it doesn't do a double inherit, but it inherits shape kind of basically. So what was the question about it being public? Because sword isn't public. So yeah, sword is an object, but a hero has a sword.
But the sword is a class, right?
Sword is a class, yes. So can we write a definition in H? Should we do that in CPP file? Alec, we just talked, yeah, you can do it in the CPP file. We have that here too. You can do whichever one you want.
We can do or code in the H file.
Yeah, just like the template.
No way. Oh, we don't need the CPP? It just needs or.
When I'm writing code, I have a very organized H to CPP file ratio. But yeah, just technically you do it however you want. But yeah, Alec, you can definitely write it in the CPP file. And then, oh, more things to know. Yeah, there are definitely more. So I had a thought. Oh, construct. Okay, so we have to have constructors for these. So sword has a constructor. And I'm just gonna have it be empty. Here, let's give sword int length. Sure. So here length equals 0. And here sword. And this takes in int L length equals L. There we go. And then let's make all of this. Yeah, I'm writing it in here, but you could write in the CPP file if you want me to show you that I can. But we have those. And so now in here, hero, it has to have a constructor. Let's give it a, so it has a name. This isn't exactly one-to-one, but honestly, you know what? It's okay if it's not one-to-one with the Latin. Yeah, so I'm just writing it a default. I'm just writing a default and one parameter, nothing crazy there. And then here, now we have to use level, sure, int level. And so then public hero. So with the default constructor, level equals 0. And then to call the other constructors, we use a constructor list. So it's, I think it's colon and then character default constructor, comma, sword default constructor. And that's mad because it didn't finish. There it goes. So that's how you call the constructors for those. And then with a more specific one, you do hero in level, what is it? Character, the name string name. Let's L and int length. There we go. And so with this, all you put in here is level equals L for level. It's a horrible variable name, don't at me. And then here we do character n comma sword lang. There we go. So that's how you call those constructors from the inherited stuff. Okay. And then let's say in the to string, we wanted to do something with the sword here. So like with the sword and characters to strings as well. So in to string, I use this print name because a hero is a character. So it had the print name function we defined right here. But to call the swords to string, so sword has, here we go, sword has a to string function. To call that specifically, we can do, that's not good. We can do sword : to string. So that's how you access functions of privately inherited classes. You do the class name : to string. Because that's how you call the to string function on the specific sword that the hero had, that this hero object has. Honestly, this syntax is a little wonky to me. I personally don't like it, but I didn't define the C++ number, so I didn't get a voice in that decision. But that's how you call the to string function of the sword that the hero object has. Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, Karen. Put your mask above your nose. Good boy. Good. Okay. I think that might be it. Oh, so we did the constructor, we did the multiple inheritance, the whole list down. Defining multiple functions in different places. So we don't really do the diamond problem in this lab, I'm fairly certain. Because yeah,
Diamond
everything with the
problem
diamond problem
occurs-
is private inheritance.
The diamond problem occurs with the triangular pyramid because you inherit triangle, and triangle does shape 2D, which goes to shape, and triangle 3D has shape 3, or yeah, triangular pyramid has shape 3D, which also does shape.
But it's private inheritance, so it shouldn't, because in this case, flying car is a car and is an airplane.
We had to make both shape 2D and shape 3D virtual anyway.
Well, yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
true. Yes, yes. But I don't know if we would ever, whatever. Just do it properly, you don't have to run into it. But the concept of the diamond problem is that if nothing was virtual and we only had non-virtual functions, so we could make vehicle objects, we could make car, airplane, flying car, and they would all be well defined. Any function that you defined in vehicle, if it was like fully defined and everything fleshed out, that means that car and airplane also have a version of that function that's defined for them because they are vehicle objects. But then flying car has the car version and the airplane version. Even if car and airplane don't define their own, it's just defined in vehicle. The fact that it's defined in vehicle means there's a unique one for car and a unique one for airplane that's the same one as the one in vehicle. And so now flying car has a multiple definition error because car and vehicle have one defined. With virtual, you're saying it is not defined, but it has to be defined somewhere down the line. And so a vehicle, it's purely virtual. And then in car and airplane, it's still virtual. Nothing's defined yet. There isn't even like, it's not even saying that there's a signature yet. It's just like, this has to be defined eventually. And so then in flying car, yes, twice it's given this has to be defined, but since it hasn't been defined yet, there isn't a multiple definition error and you solve the diamond problem. That's what that's talking about. So if Nathan's correct and you would run into the diamond problem in this lab, then if you see that, you can talk about it. But virtual, the way we're doing it completely avoids it. Here's some example. Oh, so it's how to fix a diamond problem. So here's everything was non-virtual. Here's with virtual. Oh yeah, no. So yeah, it's a virtual inheritance would be how you handle it. So technically, to get rid of the diamond problem, you would have to do like, because yeah, even though it's a virtual class, you would still need to do that. I'm fairly certain. Like you would have to inherit virtually, like it talks about here. No, you leave that, so it's but this isn't virtual. See, I don't think you'd run into the diamond problem here, because then you wouldn't put virtual here, but then that would cause an error there, because this isn't virtual. Yeah, no, that's all fine. Yeah, so you put virtual here, since character is still an abstract base class, you would virtually inherit object. But Nathan, if you're correct, I think I would start running into issues here and do that. Virtual gets a little wonky. Just gonna leave it at that. But this should work because it's got there and then there dot two string. Oh, no, we're fine. That's a great question. Can I run it? I'm a hero. My name is Sword. Hold on, that doesn't look right though. Hold on. So hero, two string. I'm a hero. My name is this dot print name. What's going on in print name? See out name. Oh, it's a default here, so our name is empty. Let's do Carl. Yeah, just running does not mean running properly. No instance of hero matches the second response character. I had that issue earlier today. My Visual Studio is broken. I think I'm just going to reinstall it. String where one equals. That work, and then where one. Oh, what do you need? It's an integer, a string, and then an integer. Yeah, there we go. That's the constructor I made. There you go. I'm a hero. My name is Carl, and then just printing out. Sure. So works. Whatever. Okay. So yeah, that public versus private. We talked about that. Is a versus has a relationship. Polymorphism. So polymorphism is going to occur in this lab, but it's going to occur in main, and you don't change main. So theoretically, you never in mind. Oh shit. Who's drawing? Does it say the name?
Oh crap! I didn't realize that would show up like for everyone.
Wait, you're fine.
I've never done that before.
I'm shocked that allows you to just do that. I bet I can revoke privileges or something that way. But
No, you shouldn't do.
Point out something specific on my screen. You know, you can annotate it. Okay, so yeah, polymorphism is not something that you guys will interact with, I don't think, but it's going to happen in main, and you still need to know about it. So like in my opinion, there's hard and easy polymorphism. The easy polymorphism is upcasting. So if you think about inheritance, like this tree up here, upcasting is going from these derived class up to what they inherit. So a cylinder is a shape 3D, which is a shape. So technically, if you had a data type of shape, you could store cylinder, since cylinder is a shape, right? So upcasting is easy, and that's the one we're going to see in this lab. And I think that's even the only one. Yeah. Smiley face, beautiful. That's the only one it even talks about here is upcasting. I'm fairly certain. I don't even think it calls it upcasting. So yeah, it doesn't even call it upcasting because that's the easiest one. No, but you don't have to implement that. That's just going to happen. It happens in stuff like this right here. They're going to create in main an array of shapes is going to be made, and then they're going to do like go through each of the element in that array and call the area function on it. And well, actually, I don't know if this would work or not. This one's the one that never worked. You can try out this code right here. I don't know if it'll work or not. Is it in me? Oh, there was something right there and it needs to come out. Right. I don't know. So yeah, you don't write that. That happens in main. I don't know if it's literally in main right now though. Is the only thing. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah, this right here, you got circles, triangular, pyramid, sphere. Those are all in a shape array. And then we're calling display on all those objects. And since we wrote, or you will write in your shape class, they all will have a display function. That means you can call display on any object that could be a shape. So that's legal. And so just whatever you define as display for all those objects, we'll call it. Okay. There's also the concept of downcasting, which is it would be like having a shape object and trying to store it into a cylinder object. And that requires type checking before you can do that, or else you run into errors. And so it definitely is possible. It's more complicated and we don't even bring it up here, but that's called downcasting. Okay. Bring them together. Yep. Some tips. Start with one class at a time. I actually recommend getting something that compiles first. So we tell you all of the functions and constructors you need. So just write them where you want. Leave them empty. If it requires a return type, return a dummy value. I know in Visual Studio, so I'm going to get rid of all this. And I'm going to get rid of this. Yeah, this should, if I remember correctly, which I could be wrong. I very well could be. Yes, because yes, exactly. That is, I'm fairly certain that's how the slide is going. It's just a lot like the vehicle lab. That was the. Oh, for constructors. Oh, this is a great point. You don't put the constructor list in the header file if you're defining it in the CPP. Fun fact. So right now I've got a bunch of functions not defined, because you can write it like this, and this is probably how I would write it. And then once you've got this, everything in Visual Studio, at least everything in green, you can hover over and say show potential fixes, and then create definition in the CPP file. And then even for stuff that like returns an integer, so like here's speed, hover over it, show potential fixes, create definition, it'll just return a garbage value of like 0 or something. So if you do that for all of them, you'll create something that can compile, and then you should be able to submit that and it compiles and runs. If there's an infinite loop, that might be an issue because technically infinite loop is compiling. I don't know how it compiles, but infinite loops might be wonky, so you might have to try to fix whatever that is. But not, you know what an infinite loop means? If there's a loop that doesn't have a good end condition, but you might need to define like an area or something if it's doing. I don't know where the loop would be, but yeah. Okay, so that's lab 6. Any questions about that? Okay. With that, that's it for the lab. Good luck on that. Do this Sunday. If you have any questions, as always, get me on Slack, office hours. It might take me a second to answer on Slack, especially even if I'm in office hours, DM me on Slack because I'll be helping the people that are in my Zoom first. But I'll get to it eventually. But yeah, I'm recording this one, so yeah, and I record every lab as well. Just this, my last period, I discussed shapes specifically, not heroes and swords and shit, and I was like, ooh, they could literally just copy that. So I try to avoid doing stuff that you guys could. I don't want you guys to just watch my lecture and write word for word what I write. It's not at all what I want. I want you guys to watch my lecture if you're like, oh fuck, how did I define a constructor like this again? I know we talked about it. Let's do it again. So that's why we do it with fake ones. And I recorded the last lab and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't post that one specifically, so they can't just do that. So here's where we're at. Let's see, yeah, project 2 now. So project 2, like I said, I'm going to assume you guys have done the reading in and out part already. I'm going to do just a quick thing to get the image width and image height, just because I want to confirm that I have my thing set up properly. I am going to get rid of all of this now. There we go. So in here, I'm going to create an IF stream file, call it var layer 1.tga. My thing should still be in here. Layer 1.tga. And then by reading this document, I know that there's 12 bytes before image width. And so I personally recommend having, when you create a data type that stores headers, and have variables for each of these. So 1 byte, 1 byte, 1 byte, 2. So a byte, 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 short, short, byte, short, short. I'm just going to cheat though, in a way that's not actually cheating. And then there dot read. Eric, I'm muting you. Love you.
Oh, sorry.
You're totally fine. Read. And then just pass in 12, 12. So that just reads the first 12 bytes straightforward. And then here, height and width are stored in 2 bytes, and you can't have a decimal height and width. So we know that it's going to be an integer value. So the 2 byte integer value is a short. And there, call it, I think it's width. It doesn't, since it's a square, it typically doesn't matter. But that there dot read. Let's do a character pointer. Address of width for short height. Dot read. Character pointer. Address of height for, and then just for shits and giggles, get the last 2. So here, 2, there, there. Okay, so run this. Yeah. Run this. It should print out 512, 512, but it did not, which is bad. Height was corrupted. Ooh, we love corruption. It should be 12 up here and 2 down here. What?
Yeah. And why you to- well,
Oh, that shouldn't be the problem. How dare you suggest something that might be a problem? I don't think that's the problem.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's not the problem. I'm going to height, 4, character address. Okay. I am going to, so if I corrupt, I might have corrupted it. You could always have corrupted it. Always possible. So, so if you do something that you for a fact know should work. I corrupted it by, I think I corrupted it by accidentally messing with the byte and saving it. So it, like you could, I'm gonna go in here, input, yeah. So if you go here and then like open with Visual Studio, yeah, perfect right here. That's not that. No, that's, I don't always open with that. Or I opened it with GIMP as well. So if I GIMP is an image editor, so if I opened it with an image editor and then like drawn a pixel or something, I could fuck with it.
So like we shouldn't mess with it.
But just don't, you can open it in a file, like an image, just don't save it. Don't touch it, don't save the file. That's yeah, okay. So then, you know, you need to have something to open it with to see it.
Yeah, no, because we need a, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, open with GIMP. So like right here, I could open anyways because I just want to show people this binary information. Beautiful indeed. So right here. copy and paste this. Yeah, that's fine. Into here. So delete. So main layer 2.tga, save, run it. Oh, no, still has something wrong with it. 5, 12, 24. Is it not 12? Is it like 11? Right, that's correct. So oh, I know what the issue was. iOS. Look at that. Nope. Still 24. Layer 2.tga, iOS designer, character 12, new character 12. Oh, I put 4 here. That's the issue. It's 2. Because shorts are 2 length. That's what I meant. And so, yeah, if you confirm that you're using a good file and it's still failing, then I'm an idiot. That's correct. Okay, so there we go. 512, 512. Confirm you did that right. And then the rest of the step would just be reading in all the bytes of this to get the information. So that was just my quick overview of reading in, just for myself, just so you guys, if anything was confusing specifically about that, we could talk about it, but if not, then we're good. So getting the right information. Oh, one thing I know is that you're like wondering if you got the right byte information from a file. If you go to desktop, let's do like a car or something. So if you open it with a text image editor or something, the first byte, I'm fairly certain, is the bottom left one. The bottom left pixel. TGA read bottom left to bottom right. Left. Oh yeah, there we go. The first pixel in the file represents the bottom left corner of the image. So right there represents the bottom left. So if you use a text editor, image editor, scroll into the pixel, so you can just see individual pixels, and then go to whatever the color picker is. And so this is just to choose what color you want to draw with. So I could like be drawing colors onto here. I Control Z, didn't save it. But to select what color I'm drawing with, you can use this color picker, and you can specifically use this little dropper tool to select a color. And so if you select it, this will give you an RGB value. And if you do the RGB values from 0 to 255, it'll tell you what that is. So this first pixel here should be 62, 34, 56, or that might not be in that order. But let's read. If we go into here, Q4. Int I equals 0, I is less than 3, plus I, capitalize, I love everything, there we go. And then byte, var, byte key, var.read, character, pointer, address of B1, cout B. So with that, byte is not a thing in C++ character. I did P, not B. Are we happy now? Extra bracket. There we go. Okay, so we run this to print out the height and width, and then, oh, cast it to, it needs to be a decimal value, not a character. So there you go. So 512, 512, -20, -67. Ooh, that does not look pretty. If I did an int, it needs to be unsigned int. Nope. Oh, unsigned here. There we go. That's just two characters. I love figuring out the value. So yeah, you need to store it as an unsigned character. It needs to go from 0 to 55. That was an issue there, and then casting it that to an int should be legal. I say as I've failed to do this like twice now. Okay, so that is a number. That looks fine, but that's not what I was expecting. Oh, because I did car.tga. Hold on. Yeah, so this is, so we want car.tga. And then in here, copy and paste car into here. Car, run. There we go. Okay, love seeing Steven fuck around for 15 minutes to show you this. Yeah, in here, we got this little color picker giving you 62, 34, 56. And right here, we got 62, 34, 56. And we do know that the order of them that we're supposed to read it in is blue, green, red. It says that somewhere in here. So yeah, the colors are stored in reverse order since the first byte is blue component, then the second is green, red. So, okay, that's a way to confirm that. And I just walked through a fair bit of the bugs you might encounter along the way to make sure that it's okay. Any questions on that? Cool. So after confirmation, just to make sure that you're reading it in properly, because some people, if reading and writing, you might not have done it exactly properly. You just like try to brute force it, which is fine, but that's how to show that that's properly. Once you have the right values and you have it stored in some sort of data structure, now you got to actually implement all of the tasks. So there's 10 tasks and one extra credit one. Reading through it, you might be like, use the multiply blending method, use the subtract blending mode, use the screen blending mode, and you're like, what the hell does this mean? Maybe multiply and subtract, you're like, oh, I can multiply pixels together. That's what it is. Multiply and subtract are pretty straightforward. You do for every pixel, you take the blue, you multiply it by the blue, red by the red, green by the green, and then that results in a number. For the subtract, it's you take the blue, you subtract the blue, results in a number, and you store that in a new pixel, and that makes a resulting image. But for screen, you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Up here under image manipulation, highly recommend just skimming the whole file at least. At least you really should read it. You guys have to turn this in, like this is your assignment. I can skim it because I know what's happening, but you guys should read it. In here, this is where all of the different blending modes are. You're not doing all of them, just whatever one we say. So there's multiply, subtract. So there's multiply. I think subtract is down here. Subtract. Screen right here. Overlay. So this walks you through it. You'll notice they use like these A, B, C values, and like in this screen right here, it even has just numbers. So it has like 1 minus A times 1 minus B. That one value, and it's true for all of these actually. The reason why it puts 1 minus A, like why would I do 1 minus a value from 0 to 55? Is because actually these A, B, and C values, it's assuming you're working with values from 0 to 1. All of them assume that the values of A, B, and C will be from 0 to 1. So multiply, it assumes you're multiplying two numbers that have a value from 0 to 1. So you guys will need to have some sort of way to map a 0 to 255 number to 0 to 1. Okay. I personally highly recommend a function for it. You just make a function, does it for you, call that function when you need it, does it for you. It's really not super confusing. Just the hard part is like all the casting that needs to happen to make it work, because you can't just do the number that's 255 divided by 255, because then that's integer division and you're going to end up with 0 no matter what you do. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there's just some casting involved. That's the big thing. But I would get a function, make sure the function works, and you never have to worry about it again, because you're going to be doing it a lot. So if you ever are worrying about that, that's going to be an issue. You're also going to have to go backwards. So the 0 to 1 to 255. So I again recommend a function for that. There are ways to do this without a function or without even converting it from 0 to 1 to 0 to 1. There's ways you can get around it if you want to do some math to figure that out. I don't support it, but some students, it makes sense to them. So if it makes sense to you, live your best life. But for the multiply specifically, that's probably the easiest one to do it with. Instead of each number dividing it by 255 properly and then multiplying, getting a result and multiplying by 255, you can technically instead do the multiplication, take that result and just divide that by 255. So it's technically less math. I'll leave you to work it out and prove that to yourself if you want to do it that way. But the recommended way, because it's true for all of these calculations, there's none that assumes 0 to 255. All of them are assuming that the number you are using for the calculation is from 0 to 1. So I'll leave you with that note on that. Some of these calculations just get a little wonky, like the overlay. It actually, you check to see what the value of B is, if it's greater than or less than 0. That's because overlay usually occurs with black and white images. So it'll be like, if it's more white or more black, do something specific with it. But you should still do pixel to pixel. Each, like the red, green, each channel of each pixel. So channel to channel of pixel to pixel. Yeah, the screen is a little weird too, just because it's like 1 minus a. But I promise you, some person has done the math. You don't need to think about why the math works. If you would like to, go for it, but it does create pretty images, I promise. Like, these aren't just random things. Someone's like, oh, let's try this. Well, someone probably was like, let's try this. And then they realized it made something pretty. And they're like, okay, we'll name this. Back up. So for some of these things, so multiply, that's fine, but there we go. So in calculation tips, this is really useful because while you're doing, you could do all those algorithms, you could do them perfectly, but then there's some calculation issues you have to keep track of that aren't listed in that document, that are just unique to what we're doing, that we tell you to do, so you have to follow them. One of the bigger ones is clamping. So if you ever go over 255 or under 0, don't just let the data type wrap around. So unsigned characters can only go to 255, and you go over that, it'll wrap around to 0 and start counting. You don't want that to happen. If it goes over 255, clamp it to 255. So for that, you're gonna have to do the calculation first, store in something that can go greater than 255 as you're doing the calculations, and then finally put it into an unsigned character if it's greater than 255 or not. Doing that check. While I say that, so like if it goes over or under, keep track, like you guys should know where that can happen. It will never happen with just a multiply, because it is, since you're assuming numbers are from 0 to 1, two numbers that are from 0 to 1 multiplied together will never be less than 0 or greater than 1. That will never happen. So if you do it wrong and you do 0 to 255 and you multiply them together, you will get a number greater than 255. That's not where clamping should occur. So I've seen people do that, where they do multiply, it goes over 255, and they're like, I thought I was just supposed to clamp this. So you fix that problem. No, multiply should never happen. So while there is clamping as a concept, it's not just, don't ignore the 0 to 1 concept and just clamp whatever. It's, you have to do it properly and then clamp in certain cases. Subtracting, that's going to cause clamping. So if you go subtracting, can a number from 0 to 1 minus a number from 0 to 1 could go below 0. So you are going to have to clamp that to 0 if that occurs. Multiplying, it won't happen. Screening, it shouldn't happen. I guess we could look over it. I can look over that real. It's 1 minus those two. No, that should never go over 0 to 1 or under 0 to 1. Yeah, because it's 1 minus a number from 0 to 1 will never be less than 0. And then in each of those cases, it's 1 minus a number like that. So that will always be within 0 to 1. Yeah. Oh, no,
Yeah.
What's
so
up?
can't clamping won't-
The question was clamping, will clamping ruin it?
No,
But the
yeah.
question was clamping
Like-
won't ruin it.
Okay, you guys figured in that we would get.
Yes, so for subtraction, if you go less than 0, the image should stop at 0. Like if you should stop and we have yes, we calculate that. Yes. Because we have a solution to this code.
Yeah.
And so we clamp, and that's how we made the example images for you guys, which you're comparing to.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Oh, did I get disconnected? Oh, I totally did. Oh yeah, my internet stopped working. It kicked me off the internet. Carrick is like, now you understand what I've been dealing with. Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay.
There you go.
They're making fun of you, Carrick. Okay, share. Oh my God, this fixing the recording today is going to be a time. Oh, we're still recording. Oh, okay, cool. We'll see if that fixes it or not. Who knows? Okay, so yeah, clamping. So Carrick, did you get Carrick, Nathan, Alex? Did you get that whole clamping montage I went over?
No, can you restart the whole? No, I'm kidding.
Can I re-say the whole clamping thing? Is that what you said?
No, I was. Wait, what? No. You're fine.
We're good. Okay,
Yes,
I will. We
yes,
got
yes.
time. We're good on time.
Nah, I got clamping down.
Okay. So yeah, it won't happen in multiplying, will in subtracting, adding, it'll happen. You'll go over.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So this multiply right here, we say scale in parentheses multiply, and that's because we are telling you to multiply by 4. This is not multiply 2 images together. 2 images multiplied together will never go over. But this is just multiply all of the red channel by 4. That's going to go over 255. So that one you clamp to 255. That I think is the only case where multiply goes over. And then the blue channel by 0, that shouldn't, because you're multiplying by 0, so it's just going to be 0. It shouldn't go under 0 there. Yeah, and that's all the math ones. So it shouldn't happen very often, just in add or subtract, and then that one multiply. If you think it happened somewhere else, feel free to DM me and we can talk about it. I could be wrong. I always support the fact that I am wrong many times, but I'm fairly certain. And if however much you trust me to be right about things, which should not be 100%, trust me that that's where it would happen.
I trust you 100%.
Oh, thank you, Karen. That is a mistake. For load, it says load this thing and then write each channel to a separate file. Some people, when they hear that, they think, oh, I'll take this one file, take the red channel, and then the new file will have each pixel, the red value be the red value, and then the blue and green will be 0. That's what a lot of people think first. So it'd be a very red to white image kind of thing. But that's not what we want. If you go to the examples folder and look at the example for like the blue, green, and red, you'll notice that they are black and white. Over with. So here you'll notice that it's black and white. What that means is that every channel has the same value. And so if this is the red image and every channel has the same value, hopefully some critical thinking can get you to the fact that each channel of each pixel now has the value that was in the red channel of the original. Does that make sense? I can repeat that again. Yeah, okay. So let's say that let's say that the original image, the red value was 7, the blue value was 5, and the green value was 8. Sure? So then in the red image for this pixel, it'd be 7, 7, 7. So each channel has what was in the red channel here. And then for this one be 5 and this one be 8. So 5, 8, 5, 8. Does that make sense? So this is the red, green, blue. Okay. Cool. Share screen, share. Cool. So that's important for that one. Then the same for load each of the individual ones and combine them. Each of the individual ones will be black and white, but you don't really need to worry about that. Just take the one from the right channel and you'll be fine. If you wanted to, you could just always take from the red channel because they are black and white. So same across all of them. And finally, the load one. So the load one, it's so that does not, they're all three digital load, but this one is rotating. It says rotate at 180 degrees. That is not as hard as like if I just told you to rotate this image 180 degrees and you're like, what? How the fuck do we do that? That's fine, but there's a trick to it. And I'm not going to tell you the trick, but I'm going to tell you what you should try to figure out to find the trick. I know, I'm so mean. I'm so mean. Okay, so the pixels, they start from the bottom left, right? So if let's say it was a 9 by 9 image, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you write that out, what happens when you rotate this 180 degrees? Where did the pixels end up? So figure that out. There's a trick to it. If you'd like to do that right now and have an epiphany and say it to the rest of the class, that I don't care about. Actually, no, keep it to yourself. You figure it out, Victoria. Keep it to yourself. I see you. I see you. I support it.
Are you thinking about it?
Oh, I thought you started writing, so I was like, oh, she's gonna do it right now. But so yeah, so there's a trick to it. Just write out that little grid and start from there. Yeah, I promise you it's a lot easier than the initial thought of just like, how the fuck do I rotate it by 180 degrees? You can try to think about it if you want. I personally am very good at visualization, so I can, but I know that not everyone's like that. So just draw it out. Like that is if you're just like, what the fuck is happening, just draw it out. Okay, cool. So that's that. Before I get into testing, the last thing before that, rounding. So rounding. What? Well, I mean, yes, but what order of information do you have to write to the file to get it to be flipped? There you go. Spoiler alert, you just revert. Yeah, figure it out. I'm not saying it, because you guys really should figure it out. But yeah. But oh, it's not that. It's not that though. It's not that. Because a pixel has more than one byte.
I mean, pixels.
They're saying it in person, so I'm gonna say it out in there if you guys didn't hear. It's reversing the pixels.
Yes.
But that's not reversing the bytes.
No, the bytes and the pixels.
So I had one person who didn't have a pixel data structure and I wanted to strangle him. He just stored bytes. And when he got to there, I'm like, how do I do this? And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. That's how you do it. I didn't say that, but I was just like, it was literally what he took this class like 3 times and I had him for each one. He was a great person. So we had a fun 3 times. That was a break. I love him so. I'm not gonna say who it is, so I think I'm allowed to say this. I wanted to cry. I was like,
Wait, did he have a minor in this major?
I don't fucking know.
Oh man.
If you have to take this class 3 times, that is totally valid. This is totally valid. Live your best life. Take how long you need to take. But I also, if I've already explained it to you before, and I had to, because I had him for 2 of the 3 times, and I was like, if I have to tell it again to you, and like we already went over this, and you're confused by it again, I cry a little bit. But I support you. However long it takes you to take this class, if you take multiple times, as much as it sucks, because I know it sucks. Like there's no getting around the fact that it would suck if you have to take this multiple times. I support you. But this is my last time teaching this. So if you have to take it again, then you're definitely not getting me.
Where are you going?
Next year,
For real? Yeah.
I don't know. Taking a that's we'll get through this and then I can talk about my
Okay,
grad school
okay,
plans because it's a fun time.
You
Okay.
can't just leave us like that.
I promise I won't. Okay, so rounding. Yes, okay, rounding. In this lab, when we're rounding, if you just go from a decimal number to an integer, you're like, oh, that's probably fine, right? Except when you go to a decimal number to an integer number, so like a float to an unsigned character, it just chops off the decimal point. It doesn't actually round. So 79.871 gets chopped off to 79. It does not round up. The way to fix that, the very quick and easy way, is just adding 0.5. Because the cutoff for rounding, if it was 79.5, you would want that to go to 80, but 79.49, you'd want that to go to 79, right? Adding 0.5, 79.5 would go to 80, chopping up decimal would be 80. 79.49, adding 0.5 would be 79.99, chopping up the decimal would be 79. Victoria, you look like you're having a great time.
No, that was confusing. Wait, so.
Okay, so if you have the number 79.49, what does it round to?
Okay, that rounds to 79.
79.5, what does that round to?
80.
Okay, when you're going from float to a character, if you just did that number, no manipulation, you would chop off the decimal point.
Yeah, it'd just be 79.
Yes. But so to do rounding correctly, you want to do that 79.5 to be 80. So by adding 0.5, what is 79.5 plus 0.5?
Okay, yeah.
Chop
But
off the
so
decimal.
if it's like 79.6 and then you add the 0.5, but then you chop it off, it'd be 80. So you would only do that like if it's above 0.5.
No,
Above,
you do it for all of them because 79.6, you want that to be 80. So adding 0.5 would be 80.1.
oh,
Chop off the
I
decimal.
see, okay, because if it's like above 0.5, it's gonna go over 80, so then it'll be 80. But
Yeah,
then
that's
if it's
all you
like
care
below- Okay, yeah, I get it.
Okay, that's a great explanation. If it's 79, if it's greater than the number 0.05, then it's gonna round. If it's 79.5 or greater, it's gonna go to 80. If it's 79.5 or lower, it's gonna go to 79.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. So that's rounding. And then make sure you do it while it's a decimal. So if you put it into a character already and you try to add 0.5 to the character, it's too late. So you're gone. You're done. Yeah, you're lost it. Just like Carrie, we've lost them. Looking angry. Okay, so there's that. Now the whole rounding stuff, that becomes really important when you test. So if you don't round, the image you end up with is still going to look perfect. The human eye cannot tell the difference between, because it's only going to be half of them, because on average, it would be half of them that would be rounding incorrectly. So your eye cannot tell that half of the pixels are off by 1 digit when it's 0 to 255. That one value, your eye cannot tell that difference. You can see it up here, yeah, right here. So this is true red on the left, it's 255.00. On the right is 254.00. Oh yeah, Victoria. Okay, so yeah, you cannot tell. Fun fact. So you will just, it'll look exactly like the example. You're like, oh, this is great, I'm done, I'll submit this. Except it's not, because you have that little bit of issue there. So to confirm that, compare your output with the example image byte by byte. So it's, you no longer care about the data being in the right order. You don't care about anything. You just want those two files. Don't even think about them as images anymore. You just want two files that are exactly the same. So technically, some people test it by testing their data structures, which is fine, theoretically. But really, the best way is to go through each byte of the file and check to make sure that they're the same. So I would personally write a function that could take two files, no matter what data type, and just compare byte by byte. That's what I would do, because you do not care that they're images. You don't, yeah, you do not care. You do not care the order of the bytes. You do not care if there's strings, integers, whatever. Just go through.
I know, like, right.
Oh, not visual. No, not visual. Great programs. This is a programming fundamentals course. Okay, cool. And you should write your own tests. Yada yada yada.
So this is not a side of this submission, right?
No, not Zybooks. And so some people ask me like if I will tell you if your code runs and I will send you a screenshot of the output. That is all that I offer. So for you guys as well, if someone wants to do that, because it takes a hot second for me to like test everything. But I can run your code and send you a screenshot of the output. I will do that. I don't care if you do it or not. That is it. That offer is specifically just for your benefit.
Yeah, so like, when can I, like next Friday?
You can do it today if you wanted to.
Well, no, that's not ready today, I'm sorry.
If you ask me like an hour before, oh, are you saying like the hour before the
Yeah.
submission, could you do it?
No, I know that you.
So,
I could do that.
I always reserve the message me when you want to, I'll get to it when I can.
Amazing.
So there's no guarantee of when I will get that back to you. But I am offering that as a choice. I'm not giving you a date when I won't do it. But if I'm busy on Saturday, then so it's like take that when you can. Don't delay this.
Yes, of course. No, as always, live your best life.
Yes.
Yes.
I support you guys living your best life.
And
I support my
you
thing.
living your best life.
Okay. So this lab will require a make file. We haven't talked about that yet. We'll talk about that next week. Do not worry about the make file. The make file should only be one line. I personally, like if the students like they fuck up their make file, I have my own and it's just a universal one. So like it's really easy to make a make file. So we'll talk about that next week. The extra credit, ooh, yeah, so that's not in the task. The extra credit is just combining multiple images. You will have to change the header information for this because in combining multiple images, the width and height are different now. But yeah, you guys get to figure out how you have to write the image in what order to get this to look proper. It's a little wonky, but definitely doable. So yeah, test your stuff pre-submission. Make sure that you get input from files in the input folder. So don't just move individual files like I did. Move the entire input folder, move the entire output folder, move the entire sample, and do it relative to that, because that's what your make file. When you have a make file, don't worry about putting your code into the SRC folder until you get to the make file portion, but you definitely won't want to have you'll want to have your images in the input folder and in the output folder. So just doing /input/ whatever to get to it. Okay. Relative pass, so use relative pass, like I said, do input/ thing, not just the file name, and do not use absolute file pass. If you're confused about forward or backslashes, don't use backslashes, just use // so it's compatible across all systems. So just a single / like here, it's got inputs / data files, do that. There's testing on lab machines. We'll cover that next time, but personally, I don't even test on a lab machine. You can do it on Windows if you want. But we'll talk, like I said, that the testing stuff on like running in the correct environment, we'll talk about next week. For this week, just worry about actually writing code. That's what I'd recommend. You can easily finish this whole project and take like maybe like 2 hours to properly get it to work on the right machine if you know what you're doing. Like the getting it to work on the right machine is not actually writing code, it's just a process. And it can work for any code that you write. Oh God, I've seen it take forever and I've seen it take like 2 seconds. It really depends on how long it takes you to do each of the tasks. That's I mean, yes. Each task, it defines what it is here. So however similar these are. But if you know how, like if the tasks are all the same, the reading and writing part is all the same, yes. But so each task, however, like it says how unique they are to each other. That's the hard part. So if you figure out how long it takes you to do like the multiply, that's a pretty good for how long it's going to take you to do the rest, because each thing does introduce new concepts. So the multiply is new, doing that new concept, and then the subtracting new, that's new. Screening's new. Multiply and subtract. So if you have functions for the first two, that should be easier. Overlay is new. So yeah, each one does add like a new thing. So that's good. So it is not just like all of them the same difficulty. If you can do one, you can do the rest, it becomes easier. No, there is like an added difficulty on each because they're different. Cool. So yeah, and then tips, start small. Like I said, I personally recommend making sure you can read a file and then write the exact same file, like just having that down. So, because sometimes people, they ignore that part and just start working on the tasks. And then when they get to the reading and writing, they're like, I don't know if it's my task that's wrong or my reading and writing. And I tell them to test the read write first. And if that's wrong, then we got to debug that. And then like it's the multi-stage. And sometimes you write a perfect read write and then it fucks up later too. So like it's always, it could happen. But just make sure it runs without any tasks, and then we'll worry about it if the task specifically starts fucking it up. Don't worry about command line stuff, honestly. Just worry about, because that's just like a different way of thinking about running code, and that becomes a pain. Test early and often, because if you implemented multiple things that are new and you haven't tested yet, you don't know what new thing is broken. So writing functions to do stuff is probably the best thing to do. Like with multiply, you should definitely multiply function would be a good idea. The classes and objects you choose at the beginning will haunt you for the rest of the project. So please pick good ones. I can see many ways, many different types. I see like probably the most is header object, pixel object, and picture object. So having the three. But I've seen people do, like I said, I saw someone who didn't even have a pixel object. So like talk through your code. That's the rubber duck thing. It's so sad. I don't know if he doesn't hand out rubber ducks anymore, I'm guessing. Yeah, he used to like in lecture, if people answered questions, he'd like throw the rubber ducks. He has a ton of them in his office. It's so sad. I know. Do not wait till last minute of the project. I've had people that are like, how do I read a file? On like a Sunday night, I'm like, I'm not answering your question. I am taking my, I will answer this when I'm ready, and I'm not ready to answer your question. There are people with the linked list that are doing that too. Like you guys look at the Slack the Sunday before linked list would do. Some people just, hell, sometimes I'm like that, but like I don't expect to get help from a TA at that point. Like if I do that to myself, I'm in that boat. Like this is me rowing. Okay. Yeah, don't pass by value, pass by reference. Here's grading rubric, so 9 points for each task, and then 10 points for the make file being correct. Some extra point deduction for various things. Make sure your file names are right. Oh gosh, the amount of points I give off for just file name being wrong. So it's just a flat 10. And so some people just don't do that right. Make sure it's good. Like I said, I will not tell you if you, or the test thing that I offer, I will not tell you what your score will be. I will tell you if it runs or not. If it doesn't, I'll tell you the error. And then if it runs, I will send you a screenshot of my output folder. That is what I do. My thing is just a test to make sure it runs or not. That is all that I give. No score. No, my test does not give you a score because scoring requires a lot of setup. That is a whole process. And also you do not get a test submission. You get the one, like whatever you submit on Canvas on before the due date, that is what you get graded on. Nothing else will get a grade. You can submit multiple times, yeah, but just the last submission you have before the due date. Or if you do the 50% penalty. Yeah. Don't take the 50%.
So we have to write our own tests.
Mhm.
So that's like, there's nothing else we can do with that.
Mhm.
Wow.
So yeah, trust your tests.
Do they have like little cheat sheet of like some tests we could write? So you got it, okay. No, yeah. Not like a little like,
No,
hey.
they talk about it a little up here. It's like you can compare values and it'll tell you if it's true or false. So where was it? So the question was like, oh, you guys, I've been saying to the online people, I don't know if you can even hear. The question was, do we give you tests to do? And the answer is no. Where do we? Oh, something so like writing tests, like you can compare values. Yeah, but like that's not at all how to do it for a file. And I don't know if you guys online heard me, but I do offer. If you message, I don't know, there's no timeline of when I will do it, but probably if you message me on like noon on Sunday, after that, the chances of me doing it get lower and lower. But I will run your code and send you a screenshot of the output folder, but no other guarantee besides that. And if it doesn't run, I'll tell you what the error was. I won't tell you exactly what to do with it, but that's what I do for that. I think I had one person who said it ran on their machine, but I had an error. And so I debugged it for a second, just because like they were like adamant that it didn't, and we figured out what the issue was. But I've only ever had that happen once. Okay, so yeah, next time we'll talk about make files and testing, how you can test on your computer and all that good stuff. But that'll be the next Wednesday thing. It really isn't that bad. With that, that is the end of lab. I'm going to stop recording unless anyone has any questions.